All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night for some of you. We are back. It's been hectic. Thank you again for coming to sit and hang and chill. We have Kevin Manne, we had this conversation before about people getting people's last names wrong. Kevin, Buffalo Pinball, how are you, buddy?
Good, man. Nice that we could finally make this happen. Happy to be
We-
here.
it- it's been a challenge. So there's been, I had a power outage last week. So I can't remember what happened the one time before that.
You
It's
were got sick or something? Yeah.
yeah. Oh man, yeah. The universe has been keeping us apart. So for the record, would you like to tell everyone how to pronounce your last name?
It's Manny. Like Manny
Manny.
Ramirez, if you're a baseball fan, just think of Manny Ramirez, the Red Sox player. And it's just like that.
There
I'm a
you go.
Yankees
There
fan,
you
so
go.
that's sacrilege, but that's how you can remember it.
So for those that may not know on the channel, because even though Gonzo's Fliporama is essentially a UK-based channel, and I'm in Australia, we may have viewers that don't know anything about what you do and where you're from and your background. So we like to do chin wags on the channel, and ultimately, get to know more about your background, and so do the viewers. So Buffalo Pinball is your channel, and you were also doing Bro Do You Even Talk Pinball, which is a fantastic chinwag as well, I guess, covering news and releases and controversy and all that type of stuff. How's things going anyway?
Yeah, things are good. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to go back and kind of start at the beginning. So, growing up, I used to go to arcades, and the pinball and video games were always kind of hand in hand. You'll see, like, behind me in my game room, I have stand up arcade machines as well as pinball machines. So, like, I'm all about all sorts of gaming. And yeah, I always kind of dreamed that I would own a pinball machine one day. And I was like, I got my first apartment, and I didn't buy a pinball machine, but I got a arcade cabinet. It was a Mortal Kombat 2 that I had a one bedroom apartment. I stuck it in the kitchen of my apartment, and that's kind of where it all began. And yeah, I got sick of moving that thing from apartment to apartment. Eventually, sold it. Bought a couple more games here and there, and then I got a roller games was my first pinball machine. Paid
Nice.
$900 for it from and that was like 2012 or so.
Huh.
And then got bit hard by the hobby as
Oh,
most people do. It's
yeah.
like, well, I have one pinball. Everybody has the same story. Like, I have one pinball machine. I must have two. And now I built a whole like addition on my house, and it's got pinball machines in it, and it's crazy. And we started our podcast, and we run a local league and tournaments, and Twitch streamers and podcasters and YouTube. I always joke that there must be something wrong with us because it's like we love this thing so much. Like, let's just like give ourselves more work to do all the time. That's kind of
Yep.
what I ended up doing with my current news, which I'm sure we'll get to later.
It's a very addictive hobby in the sense that, like, yeah, you're right. You buy one game, then you want the rest, and it's all the flashing lights. It's like a poking machine, right? Like, that's how they get you with the flashing lights and everything. And it's definitely the idea of, we've all got jobs, full time jobs. Some of us are lucky to work in pinball, not us, but well, you kind of. We'll get onto that in a second. But we end up loving this so much that. You might do 10 hours at work, and then you got to spend 2 hours recording content, and then 2 hours editing. This is why I like to try and do everything off the cuff, so there's no editing. um
It's yeah, for my heart. That's why I was like, we're gonna do this podcast live. We're just gonna let it go as it is, and then let it fly because editing takes
yeah,
so long.
yeah, if you say anything controversial, whatever.
Yeah,
so um
exactly.
so, so Buffalo Pinball, right?
Yeah.
The name, what's it all about?
Yeah, so simply enough, we're in Buffalo, New York, so that's where the name comes from.
Yep.
We're not especially creative, but Buffalonians are proud of where we are, and we're kind of like the underdogs, like usually with sporting events and things like that, and we have a reputation for you know having cold weather. Everybody knows us for cold weather, and of course
Yep.
today is like the first day it started snowing for the season, but it's like we're proud of where we are. So name it Buffalo Pinball. And yeah, so that started. Nick and I met back in like 2011, 2012 when he bought a AC/DC pinball machine. And we were both in a Facebook group together. And he just put the call out there saying, "Hey, I'm buying a new pinball machine. does anybody want to come over and unbox it? And I was like, wait, you can buy a brand new pinball machine and have it delivered to your house and like play a game that nobody's ever played before? I'm absolutely going over there to do that. So that's where I met Nick. I also met Dave Fix was there that night from American Pinball,
Yep.
formerly of American Pinball.
Yep.
So that's how we kind of all got to know each other at first. And then, yeah, we were both way into it. I bought some games, and at the time, I had this really awful garage. So my house doesn't have a basement in it. A lot of houses around here have basements that people put their games in. Mine has my house is like 100 years old, so it only has like it's a little bit bigger than a crawl space, but it's not usable for anything. So I put my games in my old garage, and it was awful. And so I ended up getting nicer games, and I was like, I'm just gonna put this at Nick's house. I go over there to play it at his house. It was
Yep.
crazy. And then we were like, we started connecting with other people in the area, and we started going to events like Pinburg and Papa, and we're like, saw what they were doing down in Pittsburgh, and we're like, this is really awesome. We should try to kind of replicate that here in Buffalo. And so we started the Buffalo Pinball League in 2013, where, for 8 months out of the year, we go to a different person's house once a month and we play a bunch of games and hang out, and it's super casual and fun. And we've been running that ever since. So that's probably one of the most fun things I enjoy in pinball the most is our monthly league. And then, yeah, it continued to snowball from there. So we were like, we saw, like Papa was streaming and there are a few others, and we were like, what do you think about trying this? I was like, okay, how do we do that? Let's Pinball Joe. We reached out to him and we were like, what are you using for streaming? And he's like, I got these microphone stands and put some cameras on it, and that's how we're doing it. We kind of all figured it out together. So we started doing that a couple years later, ended up becoming Twitch partners, which was crazy. Which is cool because that gave us, opportunities like get on the front page of Twitch and really bring in pinball to a lot more people. It like kind of lets you reach out beyond the like core of who really is into pinball, which is always our goal, like to grow the hobby because we know how awesome this is and we want to just like share it with as many people as we can.
And that's the biggest thing. Like even in Perth, so I live in Perth, which is one of the most isolated cities in the world. In it's already so niche, kind of like the same, 30 to 40 heads that always come to the catch ups and the leagues. And we've slowly tried to grow it by getting more women involved, more kids involved. And by doing that, we've kind of what you guys have done with Buffalo, but we, trying to get a little bit of a collective together where, these things take up a lot of space, right? So, we thought, well, let's get a warehouse. We can all move our games into there. And there's 2 or 3 of us that are going to do that. And then basically be able to run leagues and stuff from there. Keep 1 or 2 games at home. But, I think it's really important, and I can fully relate to that. What's do you guys go to someone's house every month, you said, and you
Yeah.
rotate it? So how many like different venues do you, or how many different homes do you have on the card? Like, is it the
Yeah. So
same 4 all the time, or is it more?
no, we have a different host every month. We are lucky enough to have that many people locally that have collections. So we require
Right.
at least 6 machines. And
Yeah.
most people have way more than that. So it's pretty wild.
And is it your leagues, are they IFPA points?
They are, yeah. And so, yeah, we collectively like the points accumulate over the course of the
Yep.
league, and then we submit it at the end of the season, and then everybody kind of gets ranked, which is cool.
And is it a because I know there's a bit of a grey area with like anything IFPA. I don't do many tournaments, so correct me if I'm wrong, but in relation to being able to host a league or a tournament of any sort and having to make it public, and obviously you're at people's homes, right? So not everyone would want everyone to know where they live. How do you balance that?
Yeah, so Nick really manages a lot of the IFBA stuff, so I don't know all the ins and outs, but I
Yeah.
know if you're hosting a tournament, it has to be listed publicly somewhere if you want it to be
Yes.
um qualify if you want it to qualify for points. I don't know if that's the same with leagues or like how that really works. Unfortunately, I don't know the ins and outs of that one.
No, I know. Yeah, it's a bit of a like it's a catch-22 because sometimes I think if it wasn't, there'd be more people that had like private collections that would probably have their own kind of tournaments and leagues, but may not want to, publicize or invite random people over. But yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
kind of weird because you've got rooms full of like really expensive stuff and like random people showing up to your house, and it's like, yeah, I want to grow pinball, but also like it's still my house, right?
yeah, exactly. And that, yeah, look, and that's how I've always looked at it as well. And it's kind of, as much as you growing it, you're like, oh, it's a fine line. It's a fine line. But
Mhm.
so one of the things, obviously, that you've done for quite a while now is support Multimorphic and Jerry with showing off their new games for many years now. When did you start doing that?
Oh man, so this actually went back. So we were probably about 2 years into streaming at that point, so around
Yeah,
2017 or so. And I had gone to Replay FX, which is where the Pinburg tournament was hosted, and Jerry was there giving a presentation on the P3, talking about all the things that it could do, and the ball tracking screen and the interchangeable modules and all this. I was like, that sounds really cool, and they had one there to play. So I went over and I checked it out. I was like, man, it just kind of like stuck with me about like I mentioned earlier, I've always been into video games and pinball, and the interchangeability of it reminded me of like having a home video game console, right?
yeah,
Like growing up, I had a Nintendo, so I would just swap games, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense for pinball too because people run out of room, they're very expensive. Maybe there's something here. So I reached out to him, the following year or so, and I was like, "Hey, would you be interested in working together?" We at that point we were running Stern Pro Circuit events, so we had a really big Stern Pro Circuit event coming up. Hundreds of people coming from around, all over the place to play in it.
yeah,
And I was like, we could stream it. That was at the time they had Cosmic Kart Racing coming out. I was like, we can do the first stream of Cosmic Kart Racing. Jerry actually came out and flew to my house, and we did a launch stream of it from my place. We did a podcast, and we had that and Lexi Lightspeed. Lexi was the one we ended up using in the tournament, and he was like, "Hey, keep the game for a while, stream it, and then send it back to us, or sell it when you're done with it on our behalf." And that way we get some content out of it. You get to play the game, get to stream some stuff, and then that's what I ended up doing. And what was funny was like that was the agreement, and I put that in. I ended up selling it on Pinside, and people just thought I didn't like the game because I sold it. I was like, no, it was like a temporary thing, and we sold it on it. So it was good, but people don't pay that close of attention. They're like, "Oh, why did he must not have liked it. He sold it." I was like, "No, I absolutely loved it, but it's like I couldn't keep it at that point. I didn't have the money into the hobby that I do now, sadly." So what we continued on, and in 2020, when Heist came out, I was like, "Man, this looks really good." We were all home, not doing anything. I was like, I don't know when I'm ever going to be able to play this game. I'm just going to buy it. So I went out and I was like, I bought myself a P3. I got Heist. Heist is amazing. And it really showed me what the potential of the platform was, especially with that
yeah,
crazy train that comes down. Because they've heard over the years, oh, there's not enough stuff in the lower playfield. Even though I will counter that argument with like, you might not realize all of the things that are happening down there, but because of the interactive screen, they can do so much. You can have
yeah,
moving targets anywhere on that lower screen that changes where you're shooting at any time. But they recognize that, okay, people want physical stuff down lower. So they made that crane come way down, super dangerous shots all the time. So it was a great mix of the two worlds. Plus that I love the original theme, the story building. The big final heist is really awesome. It's like one of my favorite pinball modes in wizard modes in all of pinball. Which I was talking to Steven about it, Steven Silver from Multimorphic, and he's like, "Wait till you see the final wizard mode in Portal because it's even better." He's like, "Even better pinball storytelling." So I was like, "Okay, all right." So I got in, got heist, and then I was all in. I was getting all the modules, all the add-on games, and anytime something new came out, Jerry was like, "You want to stream it?" I was like, "Yes." And then he started inviting me down to the factory in Round Rock, Texas, which is just north of Austin, Texas, kind of like
yeah,
right in the middle of the state. And that was for the Weird Al reveal, and that game was like I still remember stepping up to that game and going, "What is going on?" There's so much on that game, and like the crazy shots, and they just packed it full of stuff, and I was like, "These guys are crazy," and yeah, ever since I feel like ever since Heist, it just like been this great ramp up in quality and innovation and cool stuff to do on your games. It's I always think about it like Stern, yeah, they make cool games, but you can play them anywhere, right? Like
Yeah,
I have a Tron and I got Godzilla. I can literally play probably anywhere, but you know, it's like where can you play the P3? And it's like where can you really dig into these games? Like when most of my other games, so I have two Modern Sterns and I have Tron, and everything else is like I've got a Spooky, I have a JJP, I have a Pinball Brothers, I've got some Bally Williams games, and I've got my P3 because it's like the Sterns you can play anywhere. Like I like to dig into the stuff that is unique and different,
yeah.
and the P3 offers that, and you can do so much in the one cabinet, which I love.
It's been a hell of a journey. I mean, first thing I want to say is that Jerry is a gentleman. He's extremely generous and open-minded and friendly and extremely passionate. And I think the biggest issue with the community is that there's that idea that P3 isn't real pinball. And I had specific people in Perth and Australia that I wanted to force them to play the game because they are extremely traditional. And it's always that kind of demographic of players over 60 years old that are really protective of pinball, right?
Hmm.
And, have this idea that it just because it's a screen, it's a virtual pinball. And it was awesome to get them to play it. And we had Final Resistance in there, which is, I've only played Final Resistance and Princess Bride. So I love anything Scott Denisi, so I'm going to be
Hmm.
biased. But getting them to play Final Resistance and watching them play and realizing that this is not really much different to a pinball machine at all, if at all. And then I recorded their reaction, right? And I had sent those to Jerry. Actually, and I'm going to send them to you because obviously you're more than welcome to use them in your new role, which we'll talk about in a sec. Um, and then getting them to honestly admit the fact that it's actually pretty cool, right? And the fact that yes, there's a lot going on at the back. In most games, there's like some even modern games have that are not P3 have a lot just happening at the back. I'll use Venom as an example.
Yeah, I just
Um,
had a Venom exactly. The
yeah,
new Star
right.
Wars, yeah.
Yeah, so even like I love my Sopranos pinball, but that's 90% at the back,
Hmm.
and whatnot. But so the idea of having one cabinet that is interchangeable that I can play lots of different games on, that is obviously going to save up space um, and money, obviously more than anything, is a great idea. And I think the whole video game analogy is something I use. I don't really like to use it with the older pinball kind of guys because they don't play video games. And as soon as I mention the word video games, they go,
Yeah,
"See, I
it's like
told
a
you it's
turn off.
not." Yeah, they're like, "It's not real pinball. You just said the word
Yeah,
video game."
yeah.
So I
I'm
just
not
kind of say,
listening. Exactly.
yeah, it's just pinball evolved, right? And at the
Totally.
end of the day, it's all about creating experience, and that's what P3 does. They create an experience, and there's much more you could do with that screen. I mean, one of the things I've seen and I like is even like there's a mode in Weird Hour where there's like bugs on the screen and the ball or viruses, and the ball has to squash them by rolling over
Hmm.
them, right?
Hmm.
Your in lanes have your rollover switches, and it interacts no different. Um, and the fact that, to be honest, like if you're not tech savvy and don't really want to repair stuff, it's very plug and play. The fact that the drawers can be pulled out for the flippers and you can just slot in a new mechanism, the fact that everything is pretty straightforward. And to be very honest, Jerry's probably got one of the best support tech teams in the industry. They respond within like easily within 24 hours. I always laugh at these negative Nancy's that write, oh, there was a P3 on site and I've told them and nobody's got back to me. And it's like, chill. They are also a small company. I think giving someone 24 to 48 hours is good. You shouldn't expect a response within like 8 hours. But we had one for a very long time. We took it to the Melbourne Expo. It lasted all Expo. We had one slight issue. with the flipper, and I think it was because we were running the upper flippers with the lower flippers off one button. Purely because I find at expos when you can't sit there and literally educate everyone that walks up to the machine, they don't realize there's upper flippers because they're kind of tucked away and hidden. So we changed that, and it didn't miss a beat. So I'm a huge ambassador for the system. We were hoping to have a portal, but obviously they weren't manufactured to a little bit later than expected. Because I really think, as you said, every game that has come out from P3 has always gotten better and better and better. Princess Bride was probably one that it didn't grab everyone because the theme is, romantic, and it's a little bit kind of slow with the music, but that's how the movie was, right? But
Yeah.
what it did do, and I can tell you, as soon as the mums and the kids saw it, they would run over to it, right? And the Princess Bride topper is really, you can see it from a mile away. So it is very good at bringing new people into the hobby, that theme. And it's not for everyone, and that's the joys of pinball, right?
Right.
But so one of the things that I really, really like is that module system, especially once you've done it once or twice, you can change it out with under a minute, right?
I have a
Um,
video of me doing it in like 45 seconds on YouTube or something. It was like crazy.
yeah. Just don't.
Yeah.
What I learned is don't do it wearing a hoodie, especially if the
Yeah.
hoodie's too big for you, because the fabric, you get caught the fabric between the rail and the game, and I'm like, bloody hoodie.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Don't get stuck.
it's really fast to get it done, and 3 plugs, you're in, you're out. And look, is just something so unique, and the flippers feel. I asked multiple people, does the flippers feel any different? And they said, like, you can tell they feel different, from no different to how a stern flipper feels different from a spooky flipper, that feels different to a JJP flipper, that then feels different to a P3. Not in a sense that they don't feel like pinball flippers, right? They just feel different, like every other manufacturer's flippers feel different. So, I think we just need to get it in front of more people. And, if Jerry could, he should send one out to like schools and every bloody expo possible, or every, festival, because I think the more people that play it, the more, uh, like, not referral. What's the word I'm looking for? Word of mouth is always the best referral, right? So,
Yeah.
like, oh, I played the P3, you have to play it, right? That's what you want, because
Right.
that's how you get, people in front of it. There is that kind of argument that the P3 system's not really built for arcades, and I'll probably agree with that to a sense, because I think you really want to hear it and experience it to its best potential. I still think it's important to get them to arcades, because people, if they're locked up in your home, how are you going to get these in front of people, right? So, um, but there's that kind of that balance of trying to, how do we get it to more people? How do we get more people experiencing it? How do we get more people being more open-minded to it? And I really hope now, with this new role, that obviously you're now turning into a Multimorphic P3 ambassador as such, dedicating
Hmm.
all your kind of social media and marketing time to Multimorphic as their marketing guru. How did that all come about?
Yeah, so obviously, well, you had a lot of topics that I want to touch on, and I
Let's do it.
was making notes. I was like, I've got like, I've been answering these questions and thinking about them for years. So
Do it.
we'll come back to a lot of that. But so for those who hadn't heard, I am officially signed on with Multimorphic to help them
Yep.
with their communications and social media marketing. And that came out, I think that was just a like organic development of our relationship over the years. Right? You mentioned how Jerry's so good. He's such a good dude, and he's great with his time. And I found, the more I went down to Austin to hang out with those guys, I was like, these are like people like me. These are people I appreciate, respect, very smart, very knowledgeable, professional, all that. So like, these are totally people I can hang out with, have a good time, work together with, and they're really passionate about what they do. So over the years, we built up a relationship. When Portal specifically came out, I was like, so uh, years ago, he was like, he asked certain people to like rate themes, and I was like, if you guys do Portal, you should absolutely do Portal. That would be amazing, especially on the P3, where you can have instantly transport balls all over the playfield with that trough. And
Yeah.
yeah, to my surprise, they ended up doing it. And the more I thought about it after I went down to do the reveal earlier this year, I was like, man, there's so much they could do with this, because the video game side of my brain as the video game license was just like, oh, more people need to know about this. People love Portal. And then the PR communication side of me was like, I'm just gonna put together a communications plan for this. And I was like, here's some things you should do with this. And he's like, this is really awesome, thank you. And so he was like, I'm gonna roll this out, once we get up production up and rolling. So production started ramping up, and I was like, how's that going? And I know he's got like a million things going on. I said, if you need help executing any of this stuff, let me know. And I was like, now that my son's off at college, I have extra time. And of course, like we do with pinball, I was like, why not fill it with more pinball stuff?
Yep.
And so I was like, uh, you want to talk about it? And he said, yeah. And we talked about it. We came to an agreement, and we're off and rolling. It's been a couple weeks here, and
Yep.
yeah, I've it's been super fulfilling already from a creative outlet standpoint for me. So I've like a creative side and a kind of like a more tech side too. And the creative side of me just had all this stuff that had to come out. I was like, I have so many ideas. I just started writing them all down, putting together a social media content calendar. And so we've been doing stuff like giveaways and pinball memes. And I started doing some reels. And the first one I did was me kind of showing new pinball day with a P3, where typically you have a machine and it's new pinball day. You have to have a buddy come over and help you get into the basement, and you have to get out your lift cart and haul it in and set jack up the lift cart and put the legs on, all that. Now with the P3, UPS brings a box to your door, you bring it in, you throw it in a minute into your machine, and you're off and running, right? So I was like, that's a quick reel we can make. Is point of view video. It's new pinball day, but you have a P3. I throw the card away. I bring the box in. That's it, right? And that did
Done.
pretty well. So I was like, okay, there's something there. And then another thing I saw was that you know on streams they don't really capture all of the cool stuff that happens in
Yeah.
pinball, any pinball machine really. And I was like, there's so many cool mechanical things on this machine. Other manufacturers might take like one of the things that this machine does and call it the gimmick for the game, and that's it. This thing is packed. So I was like, I'm gonna make a video. It's gonna be like the 7 coolest things that are on the Portal pinball machine. And I showed like the faith plate. I showed the 3-level moat jump, the teleporting companion cube, the kickback, the Reggie uh, little toy that's on the playfield, all that stuff. And I put it on Instagram, and I was like, I found myself watching it over and over. I was like, oh, this is fun. And I was like, well, okay, I just put this up. And, after the first day, I could see it starting to tick up as far as like followers and comments and likes and views. I was like, I think this is going somewhere. And over the weekend, I've been keeping an eye on it. And this morning it hit 100,000 views, which is by
Nice.
far the best performing piece of content I've ever created, either professionally or in pinball, aside from maybe the front page Twitch stuff, because that just like puts you in front of so many faces.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like it's like verification and validation of like, I knew this could work. I'm glad it's working, and now I got to keep it going, because my goal is to like to show how cool it is to own a P3 and all the super creative stuff. Everybody always says they want innovation in pinball, and this is where it's really happening, right? This is the place where
Yep.
the innovation is. If you want an innovative game, get yourself a P3, because it's doing stuff you're not going to find in any other machine.
Right, and especially with Portal. I mean, Portal's just got so much stuff in it that is it's definitely jam packed. Definitely. One of the things I'd said to Jerry that was there's always a lot of people wondering like more about the company itself, right? And
Yeah.
I think one of the greatest things recently was Kerry Hardy doing a tour of P3, right? Because he got
Hmm.
to show the factory, and people's comments were like, "Oh wow, it's actually like a proper pinball company." which that comment makes me laugh, right? But
Well,
to be
that's
honest,
like the
it's
same thing.
like,
It's real pinball. Oh, it's a real pinball company too. Yeah.
yeah. But like, all it does is it does take, you change one person's opinion and that was worth it, right? Like,
Right. Totally.
so to do a full factory tour and the process of how the games are put together, and meeting the staff that are putting these games together, and you'll see that they're just as invested as what Jerry is, and that's all content. That is good content. And the more of that happens, the better it is for P3. And I would have loved to have done more, but obviously being in Australia was always hard. And
Yeah.
with Gonzo's channel, we're a pretty big channel. I'd like to think. I think now we're at like 8,500 subs. So, to try and get as much P3 content out there um, uh, is important. And if I lived in America, I'd probably be doing a lot more of it, just like you're going to be.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm a
Well,
huge.
the thing I found was that you know, I have a P3, and obviously I've been streaming it for a long time. But through our pinball league, a lot of people got to play it, and the more people that got their hands on it and started playing it, they started buying them for themselves. So we
Yeah,
have like the biggest concentration of P3 owners around my house because people have come to my house and played it and seen how cool it is and bought it for themselves. So I have like 5 or 6 friends in my immediate local friends group who all own a P3 now, and it's just proof that you just need to get your hands on this thing, and it's really
yeah.
cool, and we just need more people to do that.
It's interesting also, like, I don't like to dwell on the negative, but the fact that people harp on about it's too expensive, right? And that if Jerry used the cabinet as a loss leader and you get more people into the hobby, I don't see why people think it should be any cheaper than like a Stern or a JJP or anything. Like, Stern have made games that are uh, pretty empty and still charge the same money. JJP used to make games that were, some will say, a little bit empty. So why is it okay for them and not for? And again, I think it's because there's this idea that it's not pinball. But in some situations, I just disagree with this comment that, if it was $3,000 cheaper, maybe you get more people into one. I tend to argue that if more people played it, that they would treat it no different to whether they're choosing a Stern, a JJP, a Spooky, a Barrels of Fun. It's just another company, right?
Yeah, they're
And
all the
just
pricing is right in that same wheelhouse now, for
right,
sure.
right. And I know, like, there's a few people that go, put Portal on a normal whitewood and I'll buy one. And I like, forget that it's a screen. Like, just put a blindfold on and forget it's a screen, right? Because it is literally no different. I don't understand it, like, because the feel of it is literally no different to you jumping from the Bally Williams onto a Stern Sam system versus a Stern White versus a Stern Spike 2 versus a JJP versus, like, they all feel different. And yes, some is because of an aging element. Some are older than others, sure. But I'm talking about the way they flip, right? Because let's face it, that's the biggest thing here that people are holding on to. It's the way it flips. I don't see the screen is whitewood. It's just literally a screen, though, right?
Yeah.
It's doing no different stuff. The only thing it doesn't have is the scoops, right? Or the vucks, like a
Hmm.
whitewood would have, right?
Hmm.
But Jerry's also proving now with this extended stuff that they're doing with Portal in front of that back section, right? That I don't see why he's not going to be able to do, like, a scoop from an upper area, or even modifying, the side stand-up targets that are in the P3 as standard. You could probably look at changing those out. Like, I think there's heaps of potential in the bolt-on stuff to kind of start pleasing all these negative Nancy's. And I know you shouldn't have to, but I think constructive criticism is a good thing. Bashing isn't. That's another topic. But there's definitely a lot more that people will starting to see, especially now with Portal, with these extended bits, right? And it's not like I told you so. Like, now they're doing it. It's a fact that, like, we're hearing the feedback, we understand, right? We'll try and give you as much more. And I'm sure Jerry, if he can and will probably go back to other games and maybe do an add-on, right? Like, why not? I don't see why. I know that's time and money, and you got to do R&A and all that type of stuff. But I honestly think that a lot of this is how it flips, and that they see those arms, and that like it's not being, they're not going through the white wood, and there's coils under, these coils are above. But like I say to people, just flip it. I don't even play it. Just hit the flippers. Just literally
Yeah,
just hit
well,
the flippers.
you nailed it, because it's what they see with their eyes. It's not what they are feeling with their fingers. Because
Yeah,
there's something, especially when I stream it, people get like hyper focused on things, and
yeah,
I feel like stuff like the ball trail on certain games, like they only did it on two. I think it's on Lexi and Heist, and I never even noticed the ball trail when I'm playing it. But for some reason they're like, "Can you turn that off? I can't even watch this." And I'm like, I
yeah.
don't even see it when I'm playing it, but they do have an option to turn it on and
Well,
off. And they see those arms, they're like, what is even happening? What is But over the years, I've noticed those questions start to decline, because people are becoming more familiar with the platform, and they kind of know what it's about, and hopefully more people are getting to play it and try it. And now it's becoming more about the games and less about why is this different.
yeah, and look, I agree with that comment. Like, I like doing VR pinball with my MetaQuests, but the one thing I turn off straight away is the ball trail and the animations, because I want it to feel as real as pinball. And as cool as the animations are of like Elvira in a hot tub and she's talking to you and flaunting her stuff at you, um, it is like it's that element that as soon as you see it, it takes you away from it being as close to pinball as possible. So I can kind of relate to the ball trail thing, because it is a bit artificial, but at the same time, like this game's got 13 balls in it. Like, so the balls are
Well,
real.
yeah,
They're
that's
not
the
fake.
difference. It's like a real pinball making that ball trail, which makes it awesome. Like,
Yeah,
how is this
yeah, yeah,
machine doing that, right?
yeah.
It's not just the
So look,
computer doing it, right?
I can understand that negativity on the ball trail, sure, right? That's fine.
Yeah.
But the fact that the rest of it is essentially like 80% pinball, literally 80%. Right? Some people argue it's probably 90, but I'll play devil's advocate here and say it's
I say
80%
it's
pinball.
100% pinball, but okay,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
listen to your argument.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
referring. I'm referring to the materials, right? Like if we're referring to like the fact the only thing it doesn't have is the whitewood, right?
Okay.
And
I
like
mean, it's still got a surface that it's rolling on. It's just better because it's
correct,
interactive and it changes. And
right?
it's like, I always think about like the Stranger Things, right? If the whole playfield could have turned into the Upside Down, instead of just like the UV lights coming on, like how
Yep.
cool would that be, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
being opening your mind to like these different experiences that are possible, I think are awesome. I mean, the UV effect is cool, but it would be even cooler if you could like transform the whole machine, I think.
Yeah, look, and there's just so much you can do. Like I even said to Jerry, find a fifth element on the P3 would be cool, because there's that scene where she kind of jumps down, and all of a sudden the camera is a bird's eye view looking down the city, and you see all the cars hovering, and she's
Oh yeah.
falling. Like that would look awesome on a P3 screen, because you can't do that on whitewood, right?
Right.
So and the one complaint, and this is the part that blows my mind the most, right? The one complaint from players is I don't care about the screen because I'm looking down, right? So imagine having like all that information down. Everyone's like, oh, I wish that more games had the screen on the playfield like Bond 60th or the original Alien had. And
Hmm.
I'm like, the P3 has a screen on, like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's
And
funny
it's
when people are very quick to go, there's too much information on that big screen. I don't look up while I'm playing. Okay, well then what about if I give you a big screen on the ground, right? On your on
right.
your playfield. That way you can see what you're doing.
Yeah, and the cool thing, I think about, people complain about modern pinball and how complex the rule sets are, and the P3 is able to present you with different information that's relevant to the thing you're doing at that
Mm,
time. So it's like it changes where the shots are. You need to do something over here. It's in real time. It kind of reconfigures and gives you more information relevant to the thing
yeah.
you're doing at that time, and really simplifies things.
And I talk to a lot of pinball players. Like I'm a sucker for upper playfields. Like I love upper playfields. I love lower playfields. Right. With the
Hmm.
P3, you can do both. But the thing that I really enjoy in pinball are video modes. Right. Like I love the video mode in Getaway and in Dracula, and like because it's that, and Jaws is video mode. Like it's that kind of like it's giving me more than just flipping, right? And it's giving me more experience. And I mean, a P3 can give you one hell of a video mode. That's the thing. So there's elements that if you really strip it back, that people want. Ironically, the P3 has all of it, and
Yep.
That's what people don't realize, right? And I think, and I use this in staff training at work. I always say to people that if you greet someone with an open hand, you have the upper hand. And I think in this sense, this works where if you just play the game, right? Just play it and just be a bit open minded. You will see that it is no different from you deciding to buy the new Barrels of Fun game, the new Stern, or a new JJP. It is just, yes, theme is important. I understand some people will buy based on theme. And I think uh, Portal is one hell of a theme. Princess Bride's is a great theme. And people go, yeah, but nobody asked for Princess Bride, or nobody asked for Labyrinth, and nobody asked for June. That's not true, right? Because you're telling me in a hobby that I wish we could work out. I mean, I tried looking at the numbers on like Pinside, how many people are on there versus like how many people are in this hobby. Like if you take all that data, like you're telling me there's not 1,000 people that aren't June fans out of all those people, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I always like cringe at that comment of, oh, nobody asked for that theme. It's like, well, you're telling me out of like 100,000 pinball players, I'll use that figure. I don't even know like what the figure was, but you're telling me out of that 100,000, there's not 1,000 June lovers.
Yeah,
Like I
I
just
know.
find that hard to believe.
Exactly. Well,
Or
that's why
there's
I
not
think
1,000. There's not 1,000 Portal lovers. There's not 1,000 Princess Bride lovers. Like, that's the part that grinds my gears a little bit. Sorry, I'll cut you off. There's a
yeah.
bit of a time delay.
Yeah, no, the that's why I think like you talked about Final Resistance earlier. I think that's the perfect transitionary game. So if somebody who is a hardcore pinhead, hates video games, has a, whatever for whatever reason they don't want to play the P3, is like just play Final Resistance. Because
You
it's got,
you you hit the nail on the
it's
head. I say use Final Resistance as the anchor to get people into P3. You're right.
right. So it's like very straightforward from a pinball perspective. It's like if you played TNA, there are similarities there where you can be like, oh, this feels familiar. It's got, two ramps. It's got a cool toy. It's got the inserts that, pinball players relate to. But then it also does cool stuff on top of that. So like you can hit a nuclear bomb and then the whole screen explodes, right? Like stuff you'd never be able to do on a traditional pinball machine. It puts the walls up and you got that
Yep.
crazy swarm multi-ball and all the balls come down and off of the scoops and totally overwhelm your flippers. So it's like it's P3 but like more like akin to a traditional pinball, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, look, Final Resistance for me is the game I try and get everyone to play because the music gets you like hyped. The experience is hyping. The spaceship when it locks the three balls, right?
Oh yeah.
That spaceship is one of the best pinball moments because the once that third ball's locked and the light show kicks in and the music kicks in to create that suspense and build up, and then it goes bang, bang, bang and fires those balls at you. Uh, that is one hell of a pinball moment, if not one of the best pinball moments I've experienced. I'm a little bit biased because Scott Denise is like I'm a big fanboy, but
He makes
it
great
is.
pinball machines.
He makes great music, pinball machines, and is a talented individual. But it is. You're right. It's the best game for people to go. Okay, well, what's next? Like, what can
Hmm.
I? And I think Portal will have that impact as well because I think Portal. A lot of people, especially, I mean, I'm 41, so I'm at that age where Portal was pretty big for us in high school and stuff. That is a hell of a theme to bring new people into pinball. Same way that Harry Potter is a hell of a theme to bring new people into pinball. And making games that are approachable. I know a lot of people hate that word, but games that have a theme that bring people in, which is an approachable theme and an approachable game, will then anchor those new people. I'm a bit vocal on my disapproval of the layout on Dungeons and Dragons because I think it's Stern's best all in one game in relation to theme, tick, atmosphere, tick, storytelling, tick, music, tick, toy, tick. But the shot geometry is way too hard for a novice person who, with a theme as approachable as that, is meant to be bringing new people into the hobby, right? And it's not just me, because other people, especially some of the top 10, 20 players in the world, agree with me that the geometry is just really difficult. And I think all the P3 games, in my opinion, have been extremely approachable from the ones I've played, but also the ones that I've watched. And you've played a lot of them, right? I'd say you
I've
played
played
all
all
of
of them.
them, right?
Yes.
Would you say
Yeah.
that they're all approachable?
Yeah. I mean, starting with the main modules, I think they strike a great balance between approachable like shots. There's always a mix of like easier and harder shots, and that's good in
Of
pinball, right?
course. Yeah.
And then the rules are they're very mindful of making deep, great storytelling pinball moments, like so, but they want to also make that available to as many people as possible. So if you look at Big Final Heist, it's not super hard to get to the big final heist, but the things you do to get there either make it easier or harder depending on how much you do. So
Yeah.
like I can get to big final heist by doing the minimal amount of stuff, but it's going to be way harder when I'm there because I didn't collect all the MacGuffins that I need to help me get through this crazy mode.
Yeah.
But at least you can get there and check it out, right? But then once you figure that out, it's like, oh, maybe I'll go back and I'll start figuring out how to get these MacGuffins. Go back, and so they've brought that in. And the other cool thing about the P3, which we haven't even talked about, is they innovated with the save state idea where think about I used to have a Jurassic Park and they have the big final wizard mode in there that you can get to by doing their special like hold the start button and then you can
Yeah.
access the wizard mode because it's super hard to get to. Right on the P3, I can work my way towards the end of the game, and then if I get there, I can save it, and I've earned that right by playing through it. And now I can go back whenever I want, so I can create my own like mini games, and that way, if I want to practice the wizard mode, I don't necessarily have to play the whole game to get there. I can get there, load my save state, play that, and then the next time I get there for real, I'll kind of have a better feel of what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, look, and that is definitely one of the parts, and I'll bring up Dungeons and Dragons again. That I'm not a very good pinball player, and I've never seen the end of most games. But with Dungeons and Dragons, I did because you could save and pick up where you left off, and I think that's a huge part of pinball moving forward because there are a lot of people that are new to the hobby that will never touch the surface of a lot of these modern games because they're so deeply coded and there's so much to them. Avengers Infinity Quest is a perfect example. Like, and it's one of the reasons why I started culling a lot of modern Sterns because, like you said, I can play them at my local arcade. They've got all of them there. And it's holding up a spot in my lineup that could be something else. And also the fact that I just felt that 90s pins and 80s pins had far more character and soul, which is more appealing to me and I know they're not as deep, but that's okay because I'm not a great player, right? So, but yeah, I mean, look, it's one of those things where I just think there's a balance there, right? There is definitely a balance to find. But I think some of these games these days are just so complicated. And I know they do it for replay value at home and all that type of stuff. But you also have to think that the person that is buying that for home might not be a good player, right? And I think the saving process in modern pinball is extremely. You don't have to use it, obviously. Like, who cares? It's there. You don't have to use it. And I know many people that have, for argument's sake, D&D, and they don't save because they like the challenge. So
Yeah.
no, you're right. I think the saving part on the P3 is hugely important. There was something I wanted to ask you. I'll come back. It will come to me. Is there specific themes you reckon that would be awesome on a P3 that you're like, you guys
Oh
need to
man.
make?
I mean, I've always been, anytime the dream theme idea comes up, I always think of Tony Hawk Pro Skater,
Yeah,
because I was like, as a '90s kid, and skating and punk rock, that was all my stuff, and that's the only way I'm gonna get music that I like in a pinball machine. So let's do a Tony Hawk Pro Skater game. I know we got the homebrew. I was able to play that at Expo last year. It was really cool.
yeah,
But I would love to see that happen. I think that the video game crossover license thing would be awesome too. So stuff like Doom or Mortal Kombat, things like that. I'd love to see more
yeah.
stuff like that. Um,
Yeah, I
I
think a Mortal Kombat that's kind of a little bit like Deadpool, where you choose who you want to beat. and like you got those type of modes would work really well. I'm a huge I love Stern's Tron, and I know you've got one as well. Tron would be a fantastic. More the second movie than the third movie, but we won't go there. But
Nick and I reviewed the third movie today on our podcast, so I loved it
I haven't
personally.
finished
But
that yet. Yeah, I've got to watch what you guys said
yeah,
on that.
it's at the end because we knew no pinball players wouldn't care. So
so things like that. There's just so much potential on how you can really immerse a theme into you being in that movie. And I'll use movie because I think, and I've mentioned this before on the channel. For me, the key to successful pinball is what the boutique companies are doing, and they're leveraging nostalgia. And I think nostalgia is the secret sauce. I think nostalgia is important because the demographic of 40 to 60 that lived on things like Rambo, Commando, Demolition Man, Blade Runner, whatever it is, Air Force One, Men in Black, like Rocky, like that stuff that like I've just given you guys like day one sellout games, right?
yeah,
Like
you got it. People, I always laugh because every like month, I swear on Pinball Enthusiast on Facebook, somebody's like, when are people going to start making original theme pinball machines like they did in the 90s? And I was like, well, first of all, people are making them. You're just not paying attention because it's not a license. And also,
yeah,
original themes don't make people get their wallets out immediately before they've even played it. They're like, if it's a theme that I love as a kid and I've always wanted in a pinball machine, it's like, okay, if somebody makes a new Tron game, I'm gonna buy it because I love Tron, right? It's like original themes don't do that. It's like, well, I have to play it first, and maybe that's not exactly what I want, and so yeah. And talking about movies and the P3, if you look at what they were able to do with Princess Bride, and that's so awesome because they got the whole movie
yeah,
and they can play the clips right on the playfield where you're looking. It's not just like playing up here for
yeah,
your buddy who's waiting to play to look at right while you're
or
playing.
nobody.
You're able to, yeah, or nobody. You're able to see it while you play, which is awesome.
Yeah.
You can't do that on any other game.
Yeah. And look, that's for me. And I know this episode's now turned into a P3 shill, but hey,
I can't help it.
we're here anyway. Yeah. I mean, I get called a shill all the time, but look, I will always call a spade a spade. And I think when you've got a system that's this advanced and this unique, and considering 70 to 75% of the market is home use, like it literally is a no-brainer. And I think people need to step it. Kind of take away the emotion of the fact that these other manufacturers were here first and they're more traditional, and literally get in front of one. And I think there's ways of like even if I don't know, even if Jerry organized like 4 of them to be hired out, right, and the consumer pays for them to be shipped to their house, you hire it for a month at XYZ, and then they ship it back or whatever it is, right? Like I just think the hiring the P3 out to get it in front of more people is a smart move, because we've got to wait for shows, right? And the problem with shows is you might not go to every show because you're busy, or the distributor might not be able to take them. And apologies, I can't remember the distributor's name. That
Wise Trailer, yeah, Justin
Nice
Wise.
Trailer, that's it. Yeah. And so he may only take 1 or 2, and then there's a queue, and then people don't get to play it. I mean, it costs money to go to the shows and have a stand and everything. So that balance of like, all right, how do we think out of the box here? How do we get it in front of more people? Do we take it to school open days? Do we take it to allowing people to hire them? Do we, stuff like that? Because I think we just need to do more to get it in front of people. That's all.
Yeah,
But
and I think their biggest attribute is the people who own it love it, and they're happy to share it with people. So through like I said, through my league, tons of people got to play it. A lot of pinball P3 owners are come on over and check it out if you're thinking about buying it and you want to. I had my buddy Dave. He had his another mutual friend over, Curtis, and gave him like the full tour of the P3. Here's how it all works, because we had talked about it for a long time. And once he saw it, he snapped one up and he went out and bought it. He's like, I'm adding this to my game room. So, and it's never.
And they do the referral system, right? So if you refer a friend, you get a discount. So
yeah, you get $1,000 off a future purchase, and the person buying it also gets $1,000 off. So
I mean, that's I don't see anyone else doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's them recognizing like, okay, when people get their hands on this, they do love it and they do go out and
Mm,
buy it.
mm.
How do we kind of facilitate that a little bit without having to like us personally take machines all over the place because we're also trying to build them and develop games and all sorts of stuff. So it's like, let's leverage this community and hopefully in my new role, I'm able to kind of boost that up a little bit as well.
So with the new role, obviously, I know you touched on your latest episode that came out yesterday. I think it was on Bro
It was
GM
today for us,
Pinball.
but probably yesterday for you. Yeah.
Yeah, today for you, where you have announced that you're going to be stepping back from being on the channel, and it
Yep.
makes sense. I totally get it, and because
Mhm.
obviously you are going to be working for Multimorphic directly, so it's a bit hard to tell everyone that you don't like Dungeons and Dragons like I just did. But
Right.
and
I just
that's
bought one,
totally
by the way. I've
cool.
been playing it.
Yeah. Look, I owned it and I wanted to love it, and unfortunately, I was just like, it's holding a space. And I actually, for me, the only way I can get games in at the moment is trading them in and out, or
Yeah.
swapping with someone else. And I just wasn't enjoying it. I actually swapped it for a TNA. Would you believe a CE
Nice.
TNA?
Nice. Great
Because
game.
the dollar value was very similar. But I think what you're going to do for them is very important, because having someone who can ultimately do it for them full time, because marketing is a lot of work, and there's no
It
money in
is.
pinball. As much as people think
Yes.
there's money in pinball, there's no money in
Check,
pinball to
check.
pay.
Correct. Yes.
A marketing budget, even for what I do, which is a hi-fi industry, to do marketing budgets, it's still a lot of money, and if
Yeah.
there's already not a lot of money in pinball, then, to try and spend 50 to 100 grand a year can hurt a company. So the more people that get on board to share reels and do what you're doing, the better it is. And this is the only way we can keep it alive. Was anything else you wanted to cover? I know we're hitting on the hour, so
Yeah, let me just touch on a couple of the things you mentioned
let's
in
go.
when you were talking and I made notes on. So I think you mentioned their tech support. Hands down, best tech support in the
Yep.
business. Nick and TJ, they do incredible work, and they make sure he's available at all hours. It's crazy how
Oh yeah.
fast I see him respond. There's a P3 uh, community Discord, and there's a community tech help where we all help each other out with stuff. But Nick's usually the first one to reply. Nick is the Baldridge. He's the official P3 customer support rep, so he's usually the first one, and he's got all the links and all the stuff to try. So he's great. Um, the upper flipper thing being on a different button, I find hilarious. I'm always like, have you ever played anything like, I don't know, Haunted House? The Gottlieb game that had the upper flippers on a second button.
Yeah.
Evil Dead from Spooky. Their little second button on the side is the one that's on the slingshot. So it's
Yeah.
like, you guys can do this. I have faith. It is a little different. And when I first got my heist, I was like, oh, that's weird. But I played like 3 games and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Because especially in multi-ball, you don't
Yeah.
have that flipper getting in the way anymore. And it's like it gives me a whole second level of control. I don't have. It's actually easier than trying to do something like where you push the button in halfway and then a stage flip.
Yep.
It's easier than that. It's a less technical way to do the same thing, right? So I think it's a plus. Although I will acknowledge it's a little different, but you guys can do it. Um, yeah, and the arcade use you mentioned, it's like maybe not for an arcade. I think it's perfect for an arcade because in an arcade, if you have a game go down, it's done making money, right? If you
Mm.
have something happen on your P3 module, you just pull the module out, throw a different module in there, and you're back up and running. And it also gives you the ability to, again, you've got X number of machines that'll fit in your space. You can customize that, and anytime a new game comes out, you just swap it out. And that's something that through the years in video games they did. And I have a Neo Geo, which has four game slots in there,
Right.
and there's just cartridges you move in and out. So
Yeah.
it's very similar to that. And I think arcades will do well to have this. And actually, in a lot of the comments that I'm seeing on that Portal reel, people are like, "Oh, I want to play this." I'm like, ask your local arcade. The more arcades that pick this game up, the more they're going to be able to play it, and the more people are going to get their hands on it. So, get yourself a P3.
Yeah, look, I think the arcade comment was probably more because I think if you really want people to immerse it and take it all in, it's very hard in an arcade just because of like the noise and the sound. Like you can't hear it, you can't engage with what's going on. But yeah, look, I mean, the idea with an arcade that you can just take out, this month we're going to have Princess Bride. Next month we're going to have whatever it is. Although I can see someone coming along going, well, I thought you guys had Final Resistance. Can you put that back in? Can you quickly put that back in? I want to play. So I can see that probably getting a bit frustrating, but there are ways you just advertise when they're having it. And so yeah, look, it's definitely doable. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
No, I think we're good. I appreciate you having me on and having a little chat, even though we're on opposite ends of the world. It's always good to connect
Yeah, sure.
with
Oh,
somebody
actually,
else who's passionate about the hobby.
I just remember the second flipper thing, right? So what's funny about that is even games like you said, like Evil Dead, right? Which everybody has watched a lot of content on Evil Dead, knows there's a sling flipper, right? It's so interesting to see people like not use it because they forget it's there. Right,
Yeah.
like most games that have, I'm trying to see if I've got any here. Where you've got a second button to use, everyone forgets, like doesn't even really pay attention that it's there, and that's the part that like it's no different, right? Just because this has a second button, so does quite a few games, and people even on traditional pinball games still forget to use the second button.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at your stern behind you with the action button, and you have to like take your hands off of the flippers to use the action button all the time, which is way harder than hitting a second button that's right by your finger. But for some reason, people have acclimated to that. I think just because it's more readily available. Sterns are in arcades all over the place, and now JJP and Spooky and everybody are using the action buttons like that, so people have just gotten used to it. So again, I remember when the 2017 Star Wars, when that came out and had the action button, people were losing their minds. Oh, I have to take my hands off and move the multipliers around, and I have to hit it to start my TIE fighters. And now people just do it. It's just the more you do it, the better you get at it.
It's become the norm now. Every game has action buttons. In saying that, I think what people get caught up on is the fact that the P3 has 3, and that triggers them for some reason. Like it just makes
it's that third button.
It's that third button. It's like it's like that third nipple on somebody. People get triggered. They get like hell bent on like you've got 3 nipples. Like they just they get so like I don't know. It's something about the look of 3 buttons that really triggers people. I just can't work out what it is. But it's so bizarre. But that third button could be the action button, right? So you could have a game that has your flipper buttons, your upper flipper buttons, and an action button. All you got to do is play piano. That's it.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you've ever got to take your hands off. So, but yeah, look, I mean, there's people going to have opinions, so you can't.
For sure.
Change them. I just hate people. I hate people that criticize a game or a system before they actually experience it. You can have an opinion and go, I don't think that's going to be for me. But God, some people go nuclear, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's like, dude, you haven't even played the game yet.
Yeah, it's like, do you even like pinball? I thought that we were all in this because we like this.
yeah. Like I'll play games of themes that I have no interest in whatsoever, right? Like Dirty Harry, for instance, right? Never watched the movies. Doesn't really interest me to watch the movies, but it's one hell of a bloody pinball game, right?
Yeah.
So I'll play it. No, it doesn't matter. Dolly Parton is the best example, right? I have no interest in Dolly Parton. None whatsoever. But I can tell you what, it's one of my favorite old games.
It's a great game. I mean, I don't even really like the Addams Family movie, but that was the game when I was growing up. I played it in the arcade, and I was like, someday I have to own an Addams Family because that game is so good. And that was like, I achieved my grail early on, thankfully, before prices got too crazy. And it's still sitting in my game room today.
There you go. So, look, I think we covered everything. I wanted people to get to know who you are, Buffalo Pinball, get to know what you've been doing, where it all started, the type of games that you play, what your thoughts on the P3 were, what you're doing with P3 now, dealing with a bit of pushback and how we've spoken about that. It's great chatting to you, and I'm sure we'll probably try and collab more in the future and we can talk about P3 releases in the future and stuff like that. Actually, a good idea might even be to get you on a P3 on this channel. We'll live stream. I'll ask you questions while you're playing. There you go. There's an idea for a video.
I'm down. Anything you want to do, man. Let's talk.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, cool. Thank you very much. I know it's a lot of work and the timing, and I know it's late for you. It's like 9 p.m., isn't it?
At 9:30, yeah. It's
9:30. There you go. So I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Head over to Buffalo Pinball, like and subscribe. Instagram as well, and also Multimorphic. Head over to their
follow those multimorphic channels. Yeah.
follow those multiple. You got Facebook, you got Instagram, you've got Discords is fantastic. So yeah, jump on everything and please support them because it is still pinball. We'll see you on the flip
100%.
side.
We'll see ya.